Hello, hello, hello. This is a weird view. I don't like this. Let's change it back. Why aren't we shifting here? My settings are all messed up, but it's okay. We are live, and I'm going to fix this as we go. That's the fun of being live. Thank you everyone for joining us another DevHub live. Super excited about this episode. So one of the things that I really like to highlight here, there we go, is having developers on who are actually building. And we talk a lot about different products that come in here and people show their different things. And my guest today, Peter, if you have not seen him in the ecosystem, if you've been around near, you've probably seen his name in the ecosystem, but been doing a lot of different work for years now, both experimenting and trying different things, and actually building some stuff here and there. And this is the type of stuff that I think anyone who is building, period, this is not a Web3 thing, it's not a crypto thing. If you are a developer and you have different interests and you are looking to, how do I actually put this into action? How do I actually start to explore different technologies, things like that? Peter's your guy. So uh, I would highly encourage everyone to just take a minute and look more into some of the stuff that Peter talks about. It's really pretty cool, things like that. He also has a book he just released, which we're going to talk all about as well. And so there's just a lot of great stuff here. So I am super excited. So I do not want to wait much longer. So let's bring Peter up to the stage. And Peter, how are you?
Hello, Joe. Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
thanks for coming on. So let's start at the very kind of high level for yourself. Who is Peter? Who are you?
well, yeah, like you introduced, I'm a developer. I love different technologies. It's been a passion for as long as I can remember. Started on the Commodore 64, Commodore Amiga. Was part of the demo scene. We built a lot of graphical and music demos and tried to tweak the maximum out of these computers. That's still going on. There's still an active demo scene competing about still the same things on these legacy machines, which is really exciting. And for me, yeah, so this is also kind of a part of my professional career as well. Been into lots of different industries. Finance industries is one of them, where I work now in a company called Banksoft, which is about banking software. But I always kind of have to explore a bit more on my own as well. And one of the technologies I kind of started with when it was fresh, actually, that must be more than 10 years ago now, when we saw the kind of first traces of WebAssembly, or the kind of the beginning of WebAssembly, trying to get something powerful from the web, which I always thought that the web is kind of the platform unifying all the all the devices, all the platforms, all the architectures, the operating systems. We can all use the web there, and I also think, in the 90s there was this Java technology trying to also fulfill that same mission. It didn't kind of go exactly there, though Java is still strong, but not for that purpose.
Mhm.
But the web has kind of established that part, and with the WebAssembly technology, it actually made it possible to also get those power demanding apps kind of also to the browser.
Right.
So games, and for me it was about the music, which was also my passion in since the very beginning when I started with computers,
Yeah.
with these trackers on the Amiga, and now with WebAssembly it's about kind of I also did a music sequencer digital audio workstation in Java, but with the purpose of the cross platform. But with WebAssembly, it's kind of it's so close, or I actually don't use this desktop DAOs anymore. I use the I use the WebAssembly app where you can create music in the browser. You have the low latency when you press the keys on the keyboard. You can kind of get the same quality of the sounds and just as powerful when it comes to synthesizing and all that stuff. And then blockchain is kind of the when you have the web to create your music, but also to publish your music.
Mm,
You need kind of a powerful platform to publish, and this is where I found Near, because
mm,
yeah.
nice.
So now I already went far
Yeah,
into
yeah, yeah. No, no.
into you now.
There's
So
a lot.
yeah,
There's so much to
please
get to
bring us
here.
back to where you were thinking
Yeah.
there.
So I want to go back a little bit here, and
Yeah.
so the music and development piece is really interesting,
Yeah.
and the part that I am really curious about is, can you talk a little bit about how you have these two passions? You're interested in programming, you're interested in building software, and then
Yeah.
you have music. What
Yeah.
made you want to start to kind of combine those two things together?
Yeah, I think this was also from the very beginning. I wanted to. I was interested in programming. I was interested in music. I think being able to combine those two. One thing is to create sounds, which if you're going to create a synthesizer, you need to code, or you need to tweak those kind of all the parameters of a sound, and essentially that's code. So if you want to have full control, which I want, and when it comes to music, also kind of sequencing, like you see in if you're a piano player, you are following these note sheets, and you can also express that kind of same notation in code. So for
Hmm.
example, in my case, in JavaScript, it's an excellent language for expressing this music. So you can have a command for each note, for the C, D, E. You can create some structures for having the intervals between the notes, and so that was the thing. That is what the WebAssembly music project is about. It's like you can write can express this music in code, and now I know AI is
Hmm.
good at writing code, so that's the next step. I think
Interesting.
yeah. So the term vibe coding can actually have also a meaning
To
into
combine it with the actual vibes. Yeah, sure,
yeah
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting to see your progression and just
Yeah.
understanding kind of like how you pull these pieces together. And I like that you talked about here just now of like trying to figure out like what is the right language for things, and working through that different process of like, okay, here's how I got to assembly script. Here's how, I think that the JavaScript is serving my needs best for different things, stuff like that.
Yeah.
For you as a developer, and because I think this is really relevant to a lot of people, is like what goes into that decision making? Was it simply just the flexibility of it, or was it more or less like how much you could still contribute back to it?
Well, when it comes to choosing the language for creating music, it was about efficiency and being able to do coding live on stage even, and that was the whole idea. If you see some of the videos that I have, you can see that I'm programming while the music is playing, and there's so little code that you have to alter, so that you can kind of uh, like a DJ, you can
Mm,
you
hmm.
can you can change the beat, you can change the melodies while you are coding. You can also, with this assembly script, also that was kind of the purpose, to be able to tweak the sound while it is playing. And
Right.
assembly script is such a fast compiler, and it runs entirely in the browser, so there's no server involved. So then that means that you can actually get a live music playing and experience on stage, and the instrument is the code. That's
Yeah.
the yeah.
Is and is that kind of so I know like your full-time professional job is obviously as working as programmer, but like is this experimentation part and the part with even maybe before the music stuff, is that what kind of led you down that path of being able to create? Is it, or was it something like, all right, I'm already in this. How do I start to expand this to my other hobbies? Like, because music was its own hobby, things like that.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if I understand the question fully, but it's you mean like how if the music was something I already had.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah. Just kind of for people who so it's like the thing of where I think is always interesting for developers is like if you work in construction, oftentimes like your hobby isn't doing more construction, but developers seem to have these side things that are constantly tied into programming. But you've done something really interesting that you've actually tied it into music, so like
hmm,
which is also its own thing. And so like how did that all fit together?
yeah, so for me, kind of sitting with a piano, just playing some stuff is some it's a relaxation thing. It's an energizing thing. It gives me inspiration, and when I can do that in combination also with programming, it's even more inspiring because
Right.
and then I can also kind of I can take it even further because the what I can do right there and then on the piano is kind of right there and then. It's also a magic thing because you play something and but you will never hear it again. You improvise something that will be right there and then, but when you also combine it with programming, you can, yeah. Actually, one of two the interesting thing is that you can record from your keyboard and
Mm,
have that recording translated to code.
interesting,
So,
interesting.
so but yeah, I think this is just about passion to explore to actually it's a way of creating things, creativity really. I
Hmm.
don't know if it deserve it, if it's if it can be called art, but it's more
Yeah,
like
no, it's right. It's definitely art. Yeah,
art is it's just something I do to yeah, for the joy of it, and mostly for myself, and if I actually see that others enjoy it too. And that was obviously the case when I was invited to this first WebAssembly summit in 2020, which was a great experience where I was together with all these WebAssembly gurus, I would say, all these founders of WebAssembly were there,
mm,
and then it was me, this unknown guy from Norway, doing some music stuff. That
yeah,
was
yeah.
with the hat. I
Right.
should have had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
No, I think it is very interesting, and the experimentation part is really curious to me because,
yeah.
definitely, I mean, I think you're definitely making art here, and the creativity part, I get all of that, but then like it seems like you've then taken this exploring and creativity, and tried to also apply it to some stuff here on Near with blockchain of showing like it's almost like proof of capability. Like you've a lot of the experiments you've done that I've seen over the years are about showing like look at how powerful this actually is, and
Mm.
you can do this now. So with that said, maybe let's go into like what then led you to start building on Near and kind of coming here.
Yeah. So because Near was the first thing was because of the size of these WebAssembly music files. They are less than 30 kilobytes. So and they contain all the audio, all the music, everything is one. So that's less than a paper you write at school. less characters.
Yeah.
But imagine that, and you have a full piece of music. You have instruments sounding almost like real instruments. And my idea was that I don't have to publish this on streaming services. I don't have to create a WAV file. I don't have to create an MP3 file. I can actually publish this WebAssembly file as is. And at that time, also the NFTs were very popular. I still think it's an amazing concept, and I think actually this is I have not given up on NFTs. I actually want to do more with NFTs, and this is where you can actually take this WebAssembly file. You can put it on chain, so it's not like a file on the side that the NFT is linked to. It's there. The content is stored on the blockchain, and when I found that Near had WebAssembly smart contracts, because that was what I was looking for when it comes to a blockchain. I thought someone must have done this. So I started looking for that in 2019. Or was it even 2018? I don't know, but there's a question on Stack Overflow back then from when I started, from me when I started to explore it.
Yeah.
And then I found out, okay, we can store this on. It's possible to store on there on chain. I can also make the smart contract in WebAssembly, which is great because that enables to do more than the typical blockchain, just transaction stuff. You can actually, for me, this is like the cloud platform alternative,
Right.
because you can do web hosting, you can host. So yeah, I can put up the entire backend logic for this web page that is going to host the music.
Yeah.
Eventually, also, we got this Web 4 from Vlad Grishina, which allows us also to put the front end there, and so we have everything there. But yeah, so that was my first attempt in early 2021, where I published a piece of music on chain, several pieces of music. I also created some interactive demos where you can create music yourself, you can remix music, you can. And it was also connected to NFTs, still up there, and various experiments, as you said here in the beginning. So, and it also kind of brings me back to the early days, to this Commodore days, also because we were playing with assembly language back then.
Right.
They are still doing that. I think we should move on to the web, because then we have an audience that is, but this WebAssembly kind of revives that concept on the web, which I think is maybe it's a bit nerdy, but
No, but
it sure is.
what I think is really interesting though is you're still proving the abilities of the technology, right?
Yeah.
So even if like conceptually, like, okay, this is a very niche thing right now for like what I'm trying to do,
Yeah.
it is showing some capability because, like you said, you are so constrained by some of the abilities of both the size and the blockchain, the speed, and everything else, that yet you're still able to do these interesting experiments. I do just think it's something that uh, we don't see a lot of right now. It's a lot of it, right, is just trying to push out more of the same for the most part, where I do feel like you have continued to do that. So for you, as you complete these experiments, is that something where it's like, okay, I did it, I've I've proven the case. Maybe you might use it something personal, but then it's now let's see what else I can do, or is there a desire to do something more with some of these experiments?
I absolutely. I think though I still has been experiments. There's been a proof of concept. I've been lucky to sell a few NFTs with these things, and also got support for my projects and so on. But still, I actually want to do something real with this, and then the blockchain is essential. There is, I think, we will see some more writing about that soon. But like this WebAssembly Music, plugins, so to say, they can do the same as these instruments that producers use now in platforms like Cubase and Logic, and so on. And it's actually a chapter in my book of this on this as well, where you can create an instrument plugin, an audio effect plugin, using this WebAssembly. But then you actually need, as a music producer, you want to have the unique sound. You want to know that the sound is yours. You want to know that other producers don't immediately can just replicate or buy the same sound as you have. And to have that uniqueness, to prove that ownership, there is NFTs and there is blockchain. And so when you can also store the instrument on blockchain, then that's really, I think, not just kind of nice concept. It's actually a real use case.
Yeah.
And then we need NFTs. We even need the fungible tokens to be able to pay for this. Maybe we want to do streaming services, things like that. One of my experiments is also kind of paying for using AI, using fungible tokens. Now I know that also near AI is kind of free, but still I expect that this kind of requires quite heavy machinery. So
Sure.
AI services has to be compensated somehow. So I think all of this, it needs the mechanisms of the blockchain to provide user ownership, to provide ownership to the asset, which is in this case is the sound, but also mechanisms for the transactions. And so that's where also my experiments go beyond just music. It actually also, I actually drag it into all my other work as well, because I even bring it into this banking. I had a presentation a few weeks ago showing how to use AI to do transactions with a banking application. So all these things that I learned from the WebAssembly Music project,
Yeah.
and back then, has actually also kind of
This is
been the driver for everything I do elsewhere. And also this, this project of this JavaScript engine running inside a smart contract inside Rust, and that is also a very important piece in this thing that I have in my mind.
yeah.
This so I really to answer your question, yes, I do really want to do something more, and this is not just a one-off thing where I want to say I've done this and then
Yeah.
it's
It's interesting. And WebAssembly still, I feel like, is not super well understood, right? So
well,
there are multiple blockchains that are kind of using it.
mm,
It is pretty powerful. I think there's a lot of websites that people don't realize are using it.
mm,
I know, like, Apple pushed it really heavily for a while. A lot of stuff that they were doing. What is it about, I guess, the technology of WebAssembly? And I've talked a little bit about it so far, but, like, just as we look towards the future here,
yeah.
how do you see this becoming the main standard for where software is running?
Yeah, I think now we have WebAssembly is kind of empowering the web with the capability of running this performance critical software, and
Mhm.
also this real-time capabilities. So everything that you see in desktop applications today. So being able to if there are graphical intensive applications, games, music apps. So that part is, I think, WebAssembly. There are no need for these plugins that we have had in the past, like
Right.
Flash or Java applets or Silverlight. All of those are gone, but WebAssembly is filling that gap and doing it more better than any of these. And then it comes to the server side, where WebAssembly is kind of less explored. I think WebAssembly on smart contracts on Near is a great thing. It actually it is the same concept as if you use WebAssembly on edge computing
Mm.
or in cloud computing. What the thing with Near is that it's actually combined with a transaction. So everything, when the data is altered by this WebAssembly code. So think of the WebAssembly module as the gatekeeper to your database,
Right.
and that part is fully kind of handled by the blockchain and Near in this case. And then we see now that WebAssembly is coming to cloud orchestration platforms like Kubernetes. So, and what does that mean? Well, and why do we need it? Because we've had Docker containers for a long time now.
Hmm.
But the problem with a Docker container is that it actually costs quite a bit to
Sure.
run it. If you have a .NET application, for example, you easily see that it occupies like half a gigabyte of memory,
Oh yeah. Easy.
even when doing nothing.
Right.
So it's an environmental problem. we are we are saying blockchain is the environmental problem, but that's not the case. Especially if you look at Near, it's only using energy when it does something. The
Right.
problem with the Docker container is that it's kind of running there idle, like a car waiting for the green light.
Sure.
So this is where WebAssembly also can make a difference when it comes to the container technology, because a WebAssembly container you can switch off when it's not doing anything. You can because it starts so fast. So when the API request comes in, when there's an event on the event queue, you can start the container right there and then, and you can shut it down when the request has been fulfilled. So then we are talking about, that's green technology. That's kind of also cost efficient technology. So we can, what we now today need 10 servers for, we can well, I should rather say 100, because we can reduce from 100 to 1.
Right. Is that why though? Also, like blockchain makes sense because you can then run it all in a decentralized manner, and now you've like really eliminated your infrastructure costs in that
Yeah.
regard.
Yeah, because if you're running servers, if you're running a Kubernetes cluster, you have some costs there if you are running your applications or not.
Yes.
So there is a base cost. With the blockchain, your smart contract, your backend is only running when there is an actual transaction, and you pay for the gas cost right there and then. But you kind of, with the blockchain, you have several things out of the box that you would need to implement yourself. So you have the transaction security, the access control. You have the signing of the transaction. So you have the authorized and the identification of the who's calling it. You have the full audit log. You have and not to mention, like, you don't think about backup and restore and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I don't think people actually see that today. From the When you look at the developers themselves and also the decision makers today, they kind of still cling to these legacy technologies. Well, over here, people are trusting Stone Age technologies more than even
Sure.
like technologies that has been around for 10 years. So
That's what I was going to ask. I mean,
yeah,
as someone who is working both in like an enterprise environment as well as kind
yeah.
of an independent environment, I mean, how do you get that message across? Because like what you're saying right now is, yeah,
Mm.
all of these legacy ideas of I need to have all this different infrastructure and I need to host all these different components and modules just to build and deploy my software, I can simplify into basically
Mm.
running on chain. But then like on chain has this stigma, right, as well, of like, of what it is, oh, it's DeFi or it's gambling or whatever.
Yeah.
So how do you take that and say, no, 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 like this is actually what's possible as a builder, as a product decision maker?
Mm. Well, first of all, I just demonstrate what's possible. I talk about what's possible, and then comes all the stigma.
Yeah,
There's not much to do about that, but at some point, and this is what I see every time, every now and then, the old legacy technology stops working. It becomes insecure. It's hacked. This happens throughout the history. It's always kind of but it's like, people have to learn the hard way, unfortunately.
yeah,
So these technologies are not replaced unless something really goes wrong. As long
hmm,
as people are comfortable with it. We do have in the part of the world where I live in, we have kind of high trust in the banking system, in the government services, and everything, and it's all digitized. But you know, uh, lots of legacy platforms.
sure, sure,
Which I shouldn't, but well, yeah. And there are kind of we live in a different world now than 20 years ago, and
oh, sure,
this software were made for a different time with a whole set of we didn't think about the demands of today when it comes to security, scalability, energy consumption. So but
yeah,
as long as we are rich and happy and kind of not under very much pressure, we become lazy, and
sure,
we just use what we had. But this is changing now. This is for
yeah,
sure. The landscape is changing. I can see that now, that there is for sure also even here people are seeing that there's we need to upgrade the technology stack, and then of course it's hard. The next challenge is then to say that, for example, blockchain has a solution proposal there.
Is that something that you see, and again, just from like maybe your own experience here,
Mm,
is it proving like the cost difference part of that too? I mean, like if it sounds like from what you're saying, you
mm,
know, my cost overall if I deploy on chain versus
mm.
legacy could be a difference of 100x realistically.
Absolutely. Just seeing that from my own experiments, just
Yeah.
seeing that on my what I participate with on the DevHub platform team, which also is a great team to be a part of and contributing to that. Uh, I really love that. Just to see what we are capable of
Mm,
delivering when it comes to backend technology, front end, and the number of users we can handle,
sure.
and the number and the amount of hosting costs involved is tiny fraction. And
Yeah.
even for all these apps that I've put up on here, they don't, they it doesn't cost me. Now you can very easily charge the user every time there's a transaction. So you don't have that risk either, that financial risk. Uh, I think things like Web4 enabling the capability of setting up a full website
Hmm.
uh, and with a near blockchain as backend, that's well, zero upfront or zero kind of running cost.
Right.
But you, of course, we this has to be kind of when kind of adapted to the end to end to the end users out there and it has to be adapted some way, but still
Right.
it's like yeah, a huge efficiency possibility there.
Yeah. No, makes that makes sense. So let's. I want to pivot a little bit here and talk about the book you wrote, and it was
Mm.
released back in January. So is that, I guess, maybe like what's the book actually getting into, and is that something that helps this cause of what we're talking about here, of encouraging people to better understand like the power of WASM and then leveraging it for their own product?
Absolutely. So if you go into the last two chapters, which is about WebAssembly on air, and the last one about WebAssembly on Kubernetes, they are just about what we talked about now. So kind of this green technology, this yeah, there you have the book. So it's about kind of the security that you get with blockchain, and also this um, efficiency when hosting on Kubernetes, these containers that you can start instantly and you can shut them down when they are not in use. So and the whole book, if you go from the very beginning, it kind of starts on that yeah, it's like a journey back to also where I started as a programmer with assembly language. So I have quite a bit of WebAssembly low level, this WebAssembly text format,
Hmm.
code listings, so you can kind of understand that this is resembling how we in the past we wrote this kind of code directly on the CPU, but the beauty with WebAssembly is that it translates to whatever CPU that you're running on your mobile device or your laptop or whatever. But still having this kind of low level language where you can yeah, you can write your own mathematical function for creating a sine curve or random function or you on that very low level, right?
Yep.
And then you have chapters about assembly script. You have a chapter about this JavaScript runtime inside WebAssembly. So explaining that, there's a chapter on WASM Git actually, which I haven't. That's also a project which is part of this whole concept, because that's about storing the files you are working with locally in your browser, but also being able to synchronize with the server. So, but this is really kind of important. It's for storing the code files, but also just for storing data.
Yeah.
So I have this application for calculating your accounting and taxes, and that's using WASM Git just to store all your blockchain data transactions, so you can use it for building your reports and stuff. So
Interesting.
mm,
So for this in so we've talked a little bit about like WebAssembly versus some previous technologies like Flash and
mm,
Silverlight. So what are there? I mean, I don't even know if there are any. Are there current alternatives to this? I mean, Flash is pretty much gone, right? I mean,
yeah.
I don't think Silverlight exists anymore at all either.
Yeah.
So is there an alternative to something like WebAssembly? Is it just like a standard like web app at that point? I mean,
I don't know about any alternative
yeah.
nowadays to WebAssembly. WebAssembly can even run these old plugin technologies. You can turn your Java applets into WebAssembly
Oh,
modules.
wow.
You can turn
Yeah.
your Silverlight,
Yeah.
Flash. So it all runs on WebAssembly. So the only alternative is to not use WebAssembly and just. But then you don't have the same performance possibilities. For example, if you're going to write some mathematical functions, if you're going to use, for example, and this is demonstrated in the book as well, if you're just using the math functions of JavaScript compared to writing your own in WebAssembly, there's a huge difference in performance.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I think so. For people who don't know, and I guess we kind of skipped over this a little bit here. So to get to WebAssembly, there's a couple different, there's multiple different paths you can get there, because WebAssembly is compiled code. So you can write it in Rust, which is like a near smart contract. And you can write it in other languages as well, right? As long as there's a compiler for it, then yeah.
Absolutely. So and there are more and more compilers supporting it. WebAssembly, the low level language, is also kind of getting support for these languages that were it's getting support for this thing called a garbage collection, cleaning up the memory, and not so this is needed kind of to actually make it possible to compile C# and Java directly to WebAssembly as well, and but still, garbage collection is not something that is done with Rust. It also is kind of probably not a good thing when it comes to performance critical real-time apps, but it's a very convenient thing as when you're developing.
Sure.
But okay, that part can be discussed, and I'm sure there are a lot of opinions, and this is where you can talk about. But originally, WebAssembly was made for these low-level languages where you kind of do as you would do on a normal CPU. You manage your memory, you manage your code to the very detailed level, and have full control over the performance. And
sure.
Yeah.
So for you, and as you're continuing to do this, so I know, like, again, you have your full-time job, you do some work for your DevHub here and there. I know you're still experimenting, trying to do your own side projects. Is it continuing, and you wrote a book in the meantime, which is no small feat. So, I mean, for you, is the path just to continue? I know it's about it's expanding this into more of a product, some of the stuff, but is it just to keep experimenting and trying all these different things? Is that part of the joy of what you're doing? Is that you are kind of have your hands in multiple things?
Yeah, it's hard for me to only do one thing. I will probably always do lots of different things, but I think these passion projects about WebAssembly music and so on is something that I'm actually trying to free some more time to do. And also, I think what we're doing in DevHub is also awesome. I really believe in this treasury application that we are building there. It's kind of well, we started off. I felt it was like this. We are starting. We are contributing to the application that is also used for sponsoring our contributions. So, but still, I see that this has a purpose beyond just development. I think it's about how we can also distribute funds to projects, all kinds of projects, not just development. But I really hope kind of any type of project that will improve the world in some way. This is something I believe we can do, because this treasury app, it is about it's leveraging the DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization, and the control of the money flow is super essential there, to have the transparency, who approved that this money should be transferred to this individual, to this organization, who was part of the voting process, who are able to vote. These are democratic tools. These are transparency tools. It's actually making a difference. And okay, we are just playing with it now, using it for our own, but in the NEAR's ecosystem. But this really has a broader purpose
Sure.
and a mission. So I really think that that project is something I really enjoy being a part of. So yeah, so back to your question again. It's hard to just do one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, no, no. I mean, I absolutely get that. I
yeah,
get that. I want to end here
yeah,
on you brought up AI stuff, and
yeah.
so that's obviously a large topic in
Mm,
near. I think in general in programming, a lot of different angles you can come from for yourself, and especially around the WebAssembly piece of that.
mm.
You touched on it a little bit, but could you go a little bit deeper on like where does like WebAssembly sit along with interacting with AI and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's there are a lot of use cases here. We have the and probably near AI has done something excellent there because of the combination with the smart contracts, with how blockchain and AI interacts. But AI agents, they are still part of an AI agent is to execute some code, and we need to be able to write those pieces of code in any kind of language. We need to these tools that we offer to the language model today
Mhm.
for executing for uh, various functionality on our behalf. The WebAssembly is an excellent kind of binary format, a secure sandbox for those functions. So
Mhm.
I absolutely believe that it the runtime of an AI agent function should WebAssembly is an excellent candidate for that. So
Nice. Yeah,
hmm,
makes sense.
yeah.
Well, Peter, thank you so much for coming on, talking all about this. There's so much great stuff here. I really hope people take some time and go look through all your past experiments and different things you've tried, because there is really some great nuggets of, I think, initial potential products or ideas, or just again like showcasing the technology in a very different way, which I really appreciate. I've put your Twitter handle on the screen, but what's the best way for people to kind of follow along and keep up with what you're doing?
I think Twitter is a place. Follow me on GitHub as well, and LinkedIn. I do post there. The WebAssembly music stuff is on YouTube and on my webpage. I do post some videos, and they are of course not just about one thing. If you're only there for music, you will also be disturbed by some other things as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but everything is there. So and so yeah,
Nice.
you should.
And then
Wait,
also get your book as well.
yeah,
Definitely go check that out. It's available online. You can get it if you even use Kindle, things like that. You can definitely check that out. And I
mm,
really want to emphasize to people. I think this is stuff that's good to look into if you are a builder and you want to see a different approach to architecture and different ways of deploying a product. This is the kind of stuff that I think is worth kind of jumping into. So again, Peter, thank you so much for taking the time coming
yeah.
on
Thank you
here
for
and kind of
having
walking us
me.
through.
Yeah, thanks for
And
having
we
me
look
here.
forward to seeing what other projects you come out with. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. There is a lot to
I'm, sh- I'm
to
sure. I'm sure.
that one.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. All right.
Hmm.
Take
Yeah.
care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, folks. I think again, definitely again here. I'll pull it back up one more time here. Check out his book. It's really it's one of those things where, as someone who builds products and myself, that I'm very interested in architecture and trying to understand different ways of deploying products. Uh, you know, learning about WebAssembly and how you can make that as part of your infrastructure, how that can kind of become that. It's just a good learning lesson, even if you don't ever use it. I think it's just good to see what are some of different alternatives. And as Peter talked about during this discussion of the issues with some of the current and legacy type of architecture setups for software and where you can get hung up and what kind of problems are then solved by something like WebAssembly. It's definitely really interesting. If you are interested in building on blockchain, again, at near the contracts do compile into WASM, so there is all that stuff. That's why, again, like this type of stuff around experimentation is so important, because like we're really at that early days of maybe what's possible there and starting to push those limits. And so as you start to see those things, and again, as some other guests that I've had on here as well, like Elliot and such, who are really big into experimenting, trying different things, experimentation can lead to products and can lead to different ideas. So I really, really encourage people to kind of check that stuff out. um Before we go, we'll be back live again same time next week as always. If you have not already signed up to our newsletter, down at the bottom, we are sending out a newsletter each and every week about kind of near development, near AI stuff that's happening, just kind of some development topics in general. I really encourage you to kind of keep up with that. There is a lot happening, especially here in the near ecosystem, that I think is worth keeping up with if you're interested. So check out our newsletter. Any type of support you might need, jump into any of our different Telegram groups. We here at DevHub are here to help with all that type of building and stuff like that. And if you have topic ideas, if you have things that you want to see, if you have guests that you'd like to have come on here and kind of deep dive into some of our stuff, please reach out to me. My handle is on the screen. You're more than welcome to reach out, and I'm happy to discuss having on different projects as well too. So until next week, this has been another awesome episode. I hope everybody learned something, and we will see you again same time next week. Bye now.